Student economy.
A class of kids.
Crucial, thought-provoking questions.
And occasionally something serious mixed in.
Featuring the kids of Schreff Tech.
And Brad Schreffler. All right, guys, we're here with my first period class today, and Perry has picked out a discussion point for us and given an article and a video to look at. And Perry, do you want to just sort of lead us into what we're going to be talking about?
So today we're going to be talking about eSports and how that has a pretty big impact on us as a whole, and how it's going to be growing in the near future, and how it could really just become a really big thing here.
All right. We also have with us Diego and Colton, who are going to be also in on the conversation. And before we started recording, Diego had some strong opinions about whether or not esports, or gaming, as it were, could be considered a sport.
Personally, I don't think it's a sport.
And why do you say that?
Well, sports have to do with physical activities and running and things like that. Esports, you're just clicking the keyboard and moving the mouse. You're not really doing any physical activity. So, yeah, it shouldn't be considered a sport.
Okay. I'm certain that you are not alone in that opinion. That seems fair. Colton, I'm going to let you weigh in real quick. Where do you fall on this?
I'm heated.
You're not Colton.
And?
Well, I think esports are... It's different, though, because I see sports as a strategy type thing. You don't need the best, athletic players on a football team to be a good team or something like that. What you need smart players and stuff like that. A good quarterback makes a good decision. In the same way that a in-game leader or someone who's calling the strategies of the team has the same effect of a quarterback making a play or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I kind of see where Diego's coming from. But I think overall, it's probably one of the most, physical, yes, sports in general are really good. But I mean, esports is probably one of the most mentally challenging things in the whole sense of it all, because it does more than any of them, in my opinion.
I think there's a discussion to be had either way. One of the things that I think really set Diego off is the idea that the Olympics could be offering esports. But I would counterpoint that if you've ever actually watched the Olympics, there's a lot of stuff in there that I wouldn't consider a sport. So I don't think the Olympics are the end-all to be-all of what a sport necessarily is.
Going back to what Colton said, that was a really good point because of the fact, let's just take Tom Brady for an example. He's a quarterback for the New England Patriots.
I don't know who that is.
He wasn't the best athlete, and he's not the best athlete. He's not fast, he's not agile, nothing like that. But the guy has a great IQ, and that's what leads him to be the best quarterback in the NFL.
Well, and arguably the most important person on a team is the coach, and they don't run a single down or a play. So,
you're right.
And I also think about things like bowling. A lot of people consider chess a sport. So I think
chess is a sport.
There's a definition. There's a question of what the definition of a sport is, right? Next week. Next week. There's a lot of question as to what a sport is. Now, what we can say definitively is that the popularity of esports is growing pretty drastically and pretty quickly.
I mean, 27 million people watched the League of Legends tournament, the World Championship last year. So, and that was second to the Super Bowl and third to the Masters. So, I mean, people are watching it, and people are definitely, it's increasing pretty large.
And not only, I mean, I think one of the things about a sport to me is that, football is so popular, baseball, because kids play it on the street, right? And I think esports has that in the sense of people sit there and play it personally. Like, there's an amateur level to it where you feel like you can play along even if you're not at the pro level.
Yeah, and kids will be playing it at their house with their friends, just like I used to do outside.
Yeah.
Throwing the football.
So, and I think there could be a pretty easy transition there to talk about sort of the changing dynamics that technology has across the board.
Right. Like with us getting our computers in school, it's just kind of put us more into a whole sort of thing of us kind of consuming content versus creating the content that we get from our teachers, and it's kind of just made us dead, brainless, stupid people that look at our computer screens and try not to go off topic while they try and teach us.
That's an interesting leap, I will say. But the part I found interesting in there is if we're talking about the idea of consumers versus creators, and you guys have heard me say, and the podcast, anyone that listens to my podcast or on Voice Ed, that the future of work is quite different than what it is right now. And I've told you guys before, but the future is being a content creator. You have to learn to make your own work, make your own job, make your own thing. But do you guys see that happening in your classes currently? Are they training you to be a creator, or do you feel like school is leading you to be a consumer?
With my own personal experience in junior year last year in English, literally we would just sit and read out of the textbook, and then the teacher gave us the answers to the questions that she wrote herself. To me, the only thing I was consuming was her opinion about the story that she was reading. And I really couldn't make any opinions on myself because I had to answer with her answers, and she was grading those specifically with the answers that she was given. And it just...
What teacher is it?
I can definitely agree there, Colton. I had probably the same English class, and it was actually kind of stupid and not really thought-provoking. I just kind of sat there and just typed
teachers are like that.
Dead brainlessly. But I mean, I do have to say most of my elective classes have probably been the best classes I've taken over my high school career because they probably made me want to create more than anything. Like, taking Schruffler's class this year has probably been one of the most productive things I could have done because it's taught me a lot about myself and a lot about just creating things in general. Like, I mean, we're creating something right now, like a podcast that's actually kind of super cool.
While I appreciate you blatantly sucking up on a recording, let's talk a little more about like other classes. I think we accept that mine is somewhat of an exception, and I'm given a freedom that a lot of other teachers aren't. To be fair, so I don't blame that on the other teachers for not doing what I'm doing. Does that make sense? No.
I mean, I guess so, but I mean, probably one of the other classes that I would call out would be Colton has that. Colton has this class with me. It's my computers class. I've had this class for 3 years, and we're all working to get our A+ certification in it. We all do stuff all the time, and it's probably one of my funniest classes. But it's also one of the classes we do the most stuff in, and it's actually kind of hard because there's a lot of work, but it makes us really think about what we're doing. And it provokes us to learn more. So I like it because it's a lot of hands-on stuff.
Diego, where do you find yourself as a sophomore, the youngest one in the group? What do you feel like?
Well, every teacher has a different way of teaching, and for example, my woodshop class, that teacher, he teaches us to make our own things. So he's teaching us to be creators, not consumers or anything like that. So everyone has their own ways and ways of teaching. So my woodshop class is a very beneficial class for me right now and in the future. I learned to make stuff with wood.
But then again, couldn't we talk about how most of our elective teachers have that freedom to make us look like creators, and all of our core class teachers don't have that freedom to make us look like creators?
Yeah,
They're kind of more restricted. So how could we go around that?
I don't know.
That's something up to the creativity of the teacher.
That's also up to the creativity of the teacher, but I mean, that's just what we're dealing with, is because not all teachers can be creative.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. There's a creativity level that has to be considered. The teacher has to be creative. But I think the resources are available for a teacher to learn those things. I'm wondering if there's an inherent structural problem. Like, is there something about the structure of education as it stands right now that makes it tremendously challenging for a teacher to be creative in their space?
It really does seem like it sometimes because they have this like set structure that they try to put up, and then it just kind of gets knocked down to a level of where they're not happy with it, but they're satisfied with it because you're still, quote unquote, learning the content. And I guess I did just put up air quotes, but you're not really learning the content. So that's why they wonder, like, why are these people getting bad grades on their tests, or why aren't you studying? It's just because you don't have really good content that's engaging and really making you think a lot.
There's a difference between knowledge and understanding.
Right, exactly, and that's something that me and Colton have learned, and probably Diego, you're going to learn too. Like, it's just pretty intense. Like, Diego, you're taking chemistry right now, right?
Yeah.
And does she teach, or does she just have you look at stuff and you have to teach it to yourself? Which, I mean,
Teaching as in you understanding fully and being able to use that, like, tomorrow.
My teacher gives us information and requires us to go learn it on our own.
So, memorization or...
Yes. That's what it is.
which, I mean, that's not a bad thing, having teachers do that and then having it teach you stuff on your own, but I mean, if
she
you
gives us the info and makes us learn it on our own.
Right, but there is no, like, activity or something that she could be doing possibly to help create more or have you go that extra step with the knowledge that you learned yourself. So,
Like when I was in chemistry, the labs were super helpful in my understanding of how these two chemicals and elements work together.
Yeah.
Is she doing stuff like that?
Yeah, labs. Every chemistry teacher does labs. Yeah, that's.
But I mean,
But does that supplement your learning? Do you then use the knowledge that you're gaining previously from what she's teaching, and then continue with that with the lab?
Not really, because of the fact that I don't understand the base of what we're doing. So when it comes to the labs, I have no idea what I'm doing, and so does my group members. So we're not really productive. Can't really get anywhere.
So without teachers teaching you a good base, which is normally in the first quarter, and that's when teachers are still trying to learn their, like, curriculum and what they're doing, unless they've obviously been here before and they've taught the same thing. Most of the new teachers that came here this year have, I mean, tried to set a new, but all the underclassmen that I've talked to said that they haven't really done a really great job because they haven't had a good base to set off of, other than just, here's the notes, learn it, be ready for a test on Friday. Which isn't really something that we need to be learning, it's more something that we need to be trying to go away from, because that's not really what we're trying to do now. We're trying to be content creators, not consumers.